tech industry has become sexy in recent years. It's no longer considered just to be for greasy nerds, and as a result, there's a lot of people trying to break into the industry and get some of that sweet tech money. So this obviously makes it harder to get a job, and worse, most companies just want to get senior developers rather than waste their time with noobs who don't have much experience. So in this video, I'm going to be teaching you the non-sexy way to break into the tech industry. So with all this competition, if you're a self-taught developer or a recent college graduate, you're kind of behind the 8 ball when it comes to applying for jobs. And in most cases, you're going to get stuck in application hell, which is where you're going to be throwing in hundreds of applications to jobs and competing with hundreds of other people also applying for these same jobs. On paper, you really have no way to prove yourself, and most cases where they have dozens of resumes to check, they're not going to look at your portfolio to see what you're capable of. And worse, in a lot of cases, you're also going to have people in HR who don't even understand programming, who are just going to toss your resume because you don't have a programming background. You're going to be competing with experienced developers, CS graduates, stuff like that. So when the game is rigged against you, really the smartest thing you can do is not play. So how do you do that? You dodge having to make an application. My analogy is like if you can batter down the door with a battering ram, or you can do the smart thing and slip in through the side door. And that's basically what this strategy is going to entail. So instead of basically fighting for those really high competition jobs that everybody wants, instead your goal should be to just get your foot in the door and get into the tech industry, and if necessary, you can work a non-glamorous job. This basically revolves around getting into the industry and then networking so that you can skip having to apply by getting referrals from your own network. And if necessary, you can kind of beg, borrow, and steal, is the saying. Kind of leave your ego at the door and beg somebody for a referral if you have to, because sometimes that's really just what you have to do. And personally, this really goes against, at least initially, my style. I'm pretty introverted. I don't like the idea of networking or really owing anybody a favor and stuff like that. But basically, we have to live in the real world, which is, as much as I like the idea of meritocracy and that kind of thing, it really comes down to the old saying of, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I always hated that saying, but it's kind of reality. So the best thing you can do as a noob is to get your foot in the door and kind of get a referral so you don't have to deal with application hell. You can skip straight to the interview and show off your skills. So some of the jobs you should be looking for, I'll be going in future videos, I'll be adding in a couple more jobs and going more in depth on these. So if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe. But some of the jobs to look out for are jobs that require technical skill, but not as much as it would take to be a full-on software engineer. So one would be technical writer. There's a lot of companies that need good people who understand how to code and can also write. It's actually such a big deal that Google recently created a program called Summer of Docs to go along with their Summer of Code program, which has gone on for years. But they need technical writers who can write documentation, who can write content for marketing purposes related to software engineering so that they can market their products. So that's a huge growing area. You also have stuff like automated QA, which is quality analysis or analyst. So basically testing software to make sure it works and doing that in automated fashion. So that's a big thing that you can enter into. If you're more extroverted, you can be a sales engineer, which is basically you'll be part of a sales team. You'll go in and you'll help the salespeople and show how technical products work. That's something like if you work for the cloud company like a AWS or something, they need people who can kind of show demos and talk to people and show how it'll work better than their salespeople who are non-technical. SRE is a growing area, which is site reliability engineering. That's something you can look for. You have DevOps and also cloud engineering, which is more specialized, where you can get certified by AWS, Microsoft, and you can help companies as either a contractor or also help get hired by a company and help them migrate to the cloud and stuff like that. So that's basically the strategy. Once you've gotten into one of these positions, and you can even, if you don't get one of these, you could even settle for something like a customer support or something. As long as you get your foot in the door in the tech industry, you can then talk to your coworkers, basically ask for a referral, make the transition either at your company you're currently working at to a pure engineering role, or even outside companies, you can ask people if they know anybody at other companies that are looking for engineers, and you can make that transition that way. So it might not be the ideal way to do it. It's definitely not the sexy way to do it, but it's probably your highest probability chance is to not try to bash the door in and do cold applications where the people at the company are more than likely just going to toss your application. So instead of it being a numbers game and applying hundreds of times, use your head and do it this way. I think it's probably your best chance at success as a new developer.